For a brief moment, I held the fruits of my labor in my hands. My acceptance letter to Duke University had finally arrived. I looked at that letter and I said, hey, where's the scholarship? I worked really hard to graduate as valedictorian of my high school class. So while everybody else went off to college, I became Clock 91 at Kmart and enrolled in Prince George's Community College. For 30 days straight, there was a pesky recruiter that just wouldn't leave me alone, you know. He was there every time I got off the bus to head straight to class. On the 30th day, I said, shoot, what the heck, go. And he got all giddy, you know, giddy like kind of like the person that finally put in all of this work to get laid and finally is about to get laid. So I said, hey, you know, and he said, yeah, we can give you $90,000 for college. All right, no problem. Cut the check right now. Make sure you sign it with Merci. That's Merci with the I, not a Y. I said, you know, I could be packed in 2 hours. Let's go. Only there was problems fresh out the gate. I had to get a waiver because I was too short. I'm 58 inches tall. I was too blind. I've been wearing glasses ever since the 3rd grade. He said, relax, relax. No problem. He said, oh, you'll probably go to Fort Jackson. Relax in Jackson. Relax. Only he was wrong. I found myself in the back of a cattle truck to Fort Leonard, getting ready to train with military police. And it smelled like animals too. It smelled like cow manure. If anybody would have bumped into me at that moment, they would have been smelling something else. Suddenly the cattle truck stopped, you know, and if I was Fred Sanford, I probably would have died and gone to go see Elizabeth at that point. So the cattle truck's open, and all of a sudden there's drill sergeants everywhere. I mean, drill sergeants like, move your fucking ass, Private, move your fucking ass. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I just get myself into? Until I saw this one drill sergeant who said, you looking at me, Private? It was Drill Sergeant Alano. That was my nemesis for the whole entire day. I always knew every time it was time for him to come and give training, he'll always say, McKinley, get up to the front. McKinley, get up to the front. I got so tired of hearing my name, I said, that's my name, don't wear it out. Only I did not know that basic training required me to qualify with a weapon that stood like 40 inches tall, you know, or run everywhere, or complete a 12-mile rough march in 3 hours, you know. So I had difficult moments, I had difficult times. It took me a long time to qualify. I think I used every round on Fort Leonard just to do it, but I did it. Till this day, I love the smell of grass. But I still had 2 more requirements that I had to meet. I had to make that 12-mile ruck march in 3 hours. So we get ready to go to our field training exercise, and we don on our rucksacks and stuff like that. We get ready and we marched up there. It took us about 3 miles to get there, and I'm getting ready to just relax, you know. I finally accomplished something. So I get ready, I sit down, I'm getting ready to eat my meal, ready to eat, MRE. And all of a sudden I pull out my heater because I'm getting ready to warm it up. I'm going to tear into it too. It was chicken breast, you know, MREs, man. All of a sudden, Drill Sergeant Limo, he comes up and he kicks it over and he says, when you're in the middle of fucking Iraq, you think you're going to have fucking time to fucking warm up some fucking MREs? And I was like, oh my goodness. I said, whore. If you're in the Army, if you're in the military, you would know I was not using whore in the way that it was supposed to. It's like, you look like you get ready to kick my ass. Probably you fucking kick my ass. I said, whore, one more time. The whole entire camp just grew silent. Later on that evening, we had to set up the campsite, set up our shelter half. Nobody told me that I was setting up my shelter half in poison ivy. I know, right? I know. So we get ready, we get up, and we get ready to head out to complete this 12-mile ruck march. And I said, Drill Sergeant, my butt's on fire, my butt's on fire. And he says, how the hell you did that? So he goes and he investigates and he finds out that I had piss and poison ivy. And he said, you got to be dumber than a fucking box of rocks. Everybody just started laughing and pointing and everything else under the sun. By this time I'm fired hot. I'm like, give me that rucksack, I'm ready to go, you know? So we head out, about 8 miles into the ruck march. I start falling back. You know, Drill Sergeant Limo, he always said, get up front. I start falling back. And I'm looking down and I'm like, oh my God, I can't make it. You know, and he said, if you fall behind the last person, you're done. You're fucking out of here. I can't wait to send your fucking ass home. So everything within me, I mean, I'm crying, snot everywhere, I'm getting it. And finally the ruck march is over. And I'm getting ready to celebrate because I just made it. Second point for me. Only he starts singing his cadence. I hear the hot choppers hovering, they hovering overhead. And all of a sudden, there was choppers hovering overhead. And he tell everybody, drop your ruck. And we get to this wall, this long wall that we had to climb over. And once we climbed over the wall, I mean, there were tanks everywhere, bombs going off, tracers going off, everything. The size of the field was like 2 football fields put together. Man, my ass wasn't on fire at that moment. I just started running. I was like, ah! And finally I get to the end, and we all had to line up. And the company commander came out, and he started presenting everybody with their coins, you know, because by this time everybody knew that they just finished basic training. Everybody just started celebrating. So the company commander, he stands in front of me and he says, let me guess, you must be Private McKinley, because my ACH was sitting to the side and my glasses was like this. You know? So we get back to the barracks and I'm finally able to go to the aid station. I get my calamine lotion issued to me for my poison ivy. You know, and then 2 days after that, I had to take the physical fitness test, that 2-miler that I always seem to have failed. Always. You know, I would start out, I just be like, I can't do this. So the night before, everything up to that moment, I tried everything. I would look down at the ground, because if I looked up, the distance would kind of like psych me out. The drill sergeants be like, sing the cadence. And I would tell the drill sergeants, but I can't, I'm concentrating. And drill sergeant Longo would be like, that's the dumbest shit I ever. Be like Nike, just do. So at that moment, I was just like, you know, I'm not ready to go home. I can't go home a failure. So distinctively, I don't know what brought me to it, but I pulled out my Bible that my mom had given to me in 4th grade. That was the first time I made straight A's. And my mom thought, okay, I'm going to give a 4th grader a Bible. Interesting gift. So I turned to Psalms 40, and it said, he brought me up out of a pit, set my feet upon a rock, and established my goings. And distinctively I said, you know, let me write this on my tennis shoes. So I did. And I picked up, after I finished writing it on my tennis shoes, I picked it up and I put it underneath my pillow because I didn't want the drill sergeants to get to it. So the next morning, I get up and I'm ready to do this PT test, you know, same attitude that I used to have, I didn't have. And all of a sudden, I start running the PT test, and the drill sergeants at the end of the finish line said, 1750. And all of a sudden, I just stopped to walk. And drill sergeant Lionel was like, you fucking sorry excuse for a fucking private? And I'm bending over and I'm like, drill sergeant, I can't do this. You know, and all of a sudden, I looked at my shoes and I remembered what my mom and everybody else had taught me at this moment, to really lean upon him and just let him guide my path. But even at that time, I was thinking about my sister, because the night before that PT test, I had called home. By this time, I hadn't called home in quite some time. I was just too embarrassed to do it. And I finally talked to my sister, and my sister was so excited. She said, thank you for sending the money home, because I was at basic training long enough to send checks home. I'm talking about checks, okay? So my sister, she was starting basketball camp, and she was so excited. And I knew she was able to start basketball camp because I had given her the money to do so. And I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. Next thing you know, my strides just got wider, and I just started running. And I crossed that finish line at 18 minutes and 30 seconds, where you were supposed to do it in 18 minutes and 54 seconds. So I'm getting ready, I'm about to celebrate, because I just did it. And I'm thinking Drill Sergeant Limo probably was gonna have something smart to say, but he goes over to everybody else that was getting ready to get in formation, and he just called me over and he said, Brian McKinley, get in formation. No time to celebrate. So I'm getting ready to start my cadence. By this time I didn't sign off for cadence. And they was about to crank up my favorite cadence, like hard work, work. And so Drill Sergeant Limo, he said, hey, Private McKinley. I said, yes, Drill Sergeant. He said, I guess you think you hot shit, huh? And I said, who, Drill Sergeant? So we all go over to the DFAC, and after the time we get done with the dining facility for our child, I go back to the barracks, and there was a book on my bunk. Everybody else had received the basic training book to commemorate, their basic training experiences. And there it was, Drill Sergeant Delano had signed, and he said, congratulations, Private McKinley, you did it. Always remember, leaders lead from the front, Corps. Welcome to your